So, it's been a while since we touched this project. What we're going to do in this part is actually going to switch around our characters and stop using the generic one we used before and add a new one, which is going to be humanoid, and that will enable us to do to add the weapon manager that we have made on the third person shooter, and in turn it's going to be easier also to add animations, and we can also add new behaviors since we have new animation, and it's going to be easier to visualize it. So because the weapon manager is I think it has turned out great, and it's something a lot of people like and want, we're going to actually rewrite it from scratch, a little bit different from what we have done before. The changes we need to do from the inspector is, of course, go into our enemy unit, and what I did is basically the player unit, if you remember, and the enemy unit, it's pretty much the same. So let's say this was the previous enemy. Okay, just delete the model from beneath it, since we do not have any references apart from the muzzle fire into our unit. So you only need to delete the model and add the humanoid one. You also need to make a ragdoll, since we also are not going to add any new animations for this part. We're going to do everything else later. And of course the weapon, which we'll see in a bit more when we actually make the weapon manager, and the muzzle fire. And we're going to keep the rest for the enemies, which is the sight, the alert bug cube, and the audio source. So with that in mind, we can now go and write our weapon manager. We're going to collapse everything, since we'll only be feeding stuff in here. We're not going to change a lot of stuff. So we can go into, let's make a new folder, let's call it IK, and we're going to come over here and create a new script, which we're going to call weapon manager. I'm going to open it. I also have my notes to the side, so I'm going to basically copy pasting stuff. Now we're going to include a namespace, but I'm going to keep it as a namespace AI. So if you just take this project and drop it into another project we have that also has a class of weapon manager, the third person shooter, for example, then you won't be getting errors because you have duplicate classes. Okay, and we're actually going to create all the classes, since I know which ones I'm going to use, and I'm going to call this one IK handler. We'll do the same. Now in a more production ready project, you basically going to include the namespaces, the correct namespaces for each case. Okay, since the weapon manager we had on the third person shooter is not that much different than the weapon manager we're going to write over here, then there is no point to have a duplicate. You can just use the same namespace and keep one of each, and pretty much tweak it so that it can work. So let's start writing our system. We're going to close the behaviors we're not really going to need right now. We have the IK handler. Let's close all this. Instead, we're going to keep the character stats, since it has a lot of basically our states that we used. We said it as states in the third person shooter. We're going to call this one we're going to keep it character stats. Game manager, we're not going to need it, and we're not going to keep. So we basically need these three scripts. Let's start with the AK handler, since it has a fewer stuff. Now we need a reference to the animator, of course, since we use the animator. State manager is going to be the character stats, and we're going to call it states or stats. It will going to be the same. We're going to need a few floats, which basically are to tweak the heights. Okay, look the weights, look weight, body weight, head weight, clamp weight, and we're going to see if they're going to need any bit of tweaking over here. We're going to have a new float we're going to call target weight, which we're going to use to smooth out the movement, and we're going to have a transform, which is the weapon holder, which is going to have the reference to all RK positions, and is going to look towards where we want to aim, and a reference to the right shoulder. Now we previously had an override loop target, so we're going to keep that too, and we're going to also keep copy paste. Okay, references to paste to basically assign the right hand AK target, the right hand AK rotation. Let's add references for the elbow. We need to have the AK weight and the target right hand weight, so we can control which hand we basically can control individually the weight of each hand. We're going to do the same for the left hand, and we're going to have a new boolean, which if we want to disable the AK, the entire of the AK, then we can simply do it by disabling this. We're going to need a name helper for the right shoulder. Basically the left shoulder we haven't done anything with this, and if you remember, we had also a bool that basically says if we are not aiming, then disable the left hand AK. Okay, it all depends what kind of, it's for a bit of tweaking if you want to have, or basically how you want your character to look when he's holding a weapon that does not, like for instance, you might have an animation that holds the pistols and it looks okay, so you might not want to use an AK there, or use a different idle animation. So on start, we're going to do the same as we did before, so I'm going to just copy paste this over here. We do not have a name helper for the left shoulder, so we basically create a new game object and we name it right shoulder aim helper. We get the reference to the animator, and we also get the reference to the character stats. Okay, and this basically initializes your AK handler. So now we need to actually go and create the rest, basically the aiming, but the AK handling basically. Now we're going to control if we want to disable the AK just by getting a boolean, which we're going to go and create later, and we're going to call it disable AK. We're going to create it inside the animator. And actually let's go create it now, because I'm pretty sure we're going to forget it later. So go over here and create a new boolean, disable OK. Okay, and we're going to enable and disable this by using state behaviors. So let's say if I was reloading over here and I want to completely close the OK, I can simply say change bool value, disable OK. When it enters the states, it's going to make it true, and when it exits the states, it's going to reverse it. Okay, simple enough. Let's go back into our scripting. So we need a function we're going to create for to handle our soldiers. The first thing we're going to need is if our right solder is null, then we can go and say right solder equals animator get bone transfer human body bones right solder. Okay, notice that I do not initialize this from the start, since the way we have made our scripts previously, we were setting up the animator from a different script, and I think it was basically player control. If we find it over here, player control, which basically moves the unit around. Okay, because this runs in the start, if we initialize both of these into the start, then you're not going to get your animator. We're not going to get it. The right shoulder, the animator, basically the avatar, not the animator. The animator is initialized. The avatar is not set up yet, so you'll be getting a null reference, since this will have just returned null. So continuing on, if we have a right shoulder, then our weapon holder's position will be the right shoulder dot position. Okay, and this controls our shoulders. Now we're going to create a new function which we're going to call aim weight. How we want to control the aim weight, it's going to be controlled by if we are aiming on the states, and if on our states we say we do not have a reloading over here, but we can all go and add it. So let's come over here and let's just say public bool reloading. Back again. Okay, so if we're not aiming, if we're aiming basically, not if we're not aiming, and we're not reloading, and we can go over here and say we need to find the direction towards our target. And our target is basically the aim helper minus our transform dot position. We need to find the angle, but before we find the angle, we should do a check to say if direction towards target equals vector 3.0, then direction towards target equals transform dot forward. Then we need the reference to our angle, and we can find the angle from our own transform dot forward with direction towards target. And this is what, so that it doesn't aim to the other side of So you basically check if it's in front of him, but you might not want to keep 90% in front of him. You basically, let's do it 75. Okay, if it's in front of him, then our target weight, target aim, the target weight can be 1. Now, even though this we say 1, doesn't mean that further down the script is not going to be changed to 0. Okay, so if it's greater than 75 degrees, then it's going to make it so that its target weight to 0. Now, if we're not aiming, then target weight will be 0 too. We have a multiplier. If you remember, it's basically to enable or disable the IK either faster or slower, depending on what you're going to do. So you can change this to what you need. I'm just going to keep them the same as I had on our third person shooter. So the look weight, we can go and do a lerp from our look weight to target weight, and all that time dot delta time multiplied by our own multiplier, and that's basically the aim weight. Let's drop this over here, and I'm trying to write as fast as I can, but I have the mic in front of me too, so that's not always helpful. So similarly to the aim weight, we're going to start copy pasting stuff for the right hand K weight. And we can now do some more differences, since we had on a previous on our third person shooter, basically we had some stuff like vaulting and covering and all this stuff, but we can keep it simple right now. So we can say if states dot aim, then our target right hand weight will be 1, else our target right hand weight will be 0. We can create a new multiplier just for the right hand, let's say 5 or something like that, and we can also do changes over here or whatever, or let's keep this at 5 but keep this at 10 or something like that. Okay, it's entirely up to you and how you feel it looks. And what I also forgot is, before we actually go and apply a look weight, we can come over here and say if disable AK, then target weight will be 0, and you can change the multiplier to something else if you want to. Okay, but I'm not going to do it for this. And since we have already the reloading over here, instead of adding it here, you can also add it over here, like a NOR statement. But let's continue on. Now, we might want to have the right hand weight to be controlled by if we are actually aiming or not. So this basically, the right hand and the look weight is probably going to be the same. So let's actually do it that way, but we're going to keep this over here like this. So what I'm basically going to do is go over here and say target weight will be the same as the loop weight, but if not states, if we say disable or right hand, what was it? Left hand key weight, right hand key weight. Now we can add a few more booleans basically over here. So if you want to disable or enable just one of these hands, or basically let's add it. Disable right hand, disable left hand, that's a boolean. Okay, so we can come over here and say if disable right hand or disable AK, or if we want to completely disable all the AK, then target right hand weight will be 0. And we can simply say right hand AK target will be mathf.ler right hand AK weight to the target right hand weight by time.delta time multiplied by the right hand multiplier. And let's keep this to 10 since it just goes to the left hand. Now from the let's add a region over here. Let's say obsolete, although it's not entirely obsolete. You can simply, we're not using it. So this controls the right hand okay weight. We can go and continue with handle left hand okay weight. Let's make it format a bit better, and we're basically going to copy paste everything. And we'll start doing the changes. Now let's make this left hand multiplier and let's change this directly over here. And now, well, basically let's delete this. So target left hand weight will actually be controlled by if we're aiming or not. So we're going to say if left hand AK disable AK when we're not aiming, then that target weight will be 0, left hand multiplier, let's make it 20 or whatever, else. But basically else was going to say if you are aiming, if states dot aim, then target left hand weight will be 1. If you are not aiming, well, I think the alternative is always going to be aiming, so let's just keep it like this. And over here we can go and say if disable left hand or disable IK. Okay, we can also add if we are loading, But since we can come over here into our animator and add another behavior state that disables the left hand AK, I think that we're basically not going to need it, but let's keep it just in case. So we need to change the left hand AK weight, target left hand weight, and let's just say change the multiplier to, and that's how we can handle the left hand AK. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Don't think you're going to have a lot of problems with what we have done up till now. So the next thing is we can actually handle the shoulder rotation, so that basically rotates the shoulder to look towards where we want to aim. We have our aim helper for right shoulder, of course, and we basically want to say just let the position of the aim helper to the stage look position, which we do not have, so we're going to go and create it. Later on we need to pass an update for this look position so that the AI actually looks towards us. And we were over here, look position, and we can start. We basically lerp it by time. Let's put this underneath so that we can see. By time dot delta time multiplied by, let's do a 5. Okay, or you can go even higher. Let's make it 7. And then we say Wilborn Hordel, just look at the aim helper shoulder position. Then you can actually go and say right hand AK target dot parent dot transfer dot look at aim helper position, and you can actually keep the do it for the same for the transform and its parent too. So you basically control that that your hand is actually aiming towards where you want to aim. And I have made videos that go further into depth, so check the third person shooter series if you feel that you didn't get something. And basically why I'm doing this, I'm adding this, the weapon manager and the AK handler we have created on the third person shooter series, is basically because I'm going to keep adding more stuff to it, so you can simply go and add them also here. Okay, so whenever you see an update that has to do with the AK from the third person shooter series, then you can simply add it over here too. So we have created all the references, we have created where we want to aim or not. We actually need to go and apply it to the animator. We need to set up the look at weight, body weight, head weight for the eyes, and a clamp weight if you want to. Now we need to set the look at position, and instead of just hardcoding it, we're going to add an if statement over here, and we'll say if we have and override look target, then override look at the override look target. Otherwise, just use the stage.look position. Or if you want to make him look a bit more up, you can actually create a new vector 3 over here and add any offset you want to add. And let's do some copy paste because it's basically the same stuff. Now, do not be alarmed by all this. It's simple as can be. We check if there is a transfer assigned on RIK targets, and we basically go and apply the weights and the positions. Okay, for the left hand it's like that. If there is no left hand RIK target, then we simply remove the weight to 0. The same for the right hand RIK target, but for the rotation, instead of using the same one that we take the position, we use the right hand RIK rotation. Okay, the other transfer the same, and the same for the elbow targets. And that's about it for the RIK handler. Now on animator RIK, as you can see that we're not dropping the fixed update. It's a function that it's called by mono behavior, and basically when it updates the animator, it's called after the animator updates the positions. Okay, so we can now go and write our weapon manager. Now, if you remember, we had a list for our weapon manager, so we're going to use the generic, and we had created a new class that basically stored all the references for our weapon references. We need an ID, we need a public game object, which is the weapon model, which is what we place on the right hand of the model. We had a reference to the animator in case we have animations on our model, basically the slider going back and all that stuff. We need the IK holder for the weapon. We need the right hand target, of course. We also need the right hand rotation, and I'm basically going to copy paste all of this. Okay, now I'm going to remove the casing spawner, since let's just comment it out. And weapon stats is a new class we're going to create, and if you remember, it just has how many bullets, maximum bullets, the fire rate, and all that stuff. But I'm not going to add it directly over here, since I don't think, well, let's just keep it anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, casing spawner, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm also going to simply comment this out. Okay, you can check the weapon manager from the third person shooter series to see where we add this. Where I'm going to only keep the muzzle and say weapon stats. Let's keep the weapon stats, but let's initialize them. But we're not going to do a lot of stuff with this, since everything and basically the fire rate and all that stuff is controlled from the AI. right elbow target, left elbow target, the muzzles. Okay, we have everything we need. Let's call this weapon ID just for coherency. This will also be system.serializable. Now, we can come over here and say we want to see the maximum weapons we can carry, and we need a list to say weapon reference, the available weapons the character has, the weapon index, let's add, since we want to have 2 weapons, let's just add for initialization purposes, second weapon index, and I think that's done since I do not have a second weapon, so we're not going to add it. And we're going to create a list which we're basically going to add all the weapons and we need the weapon references to be the current weapon and a reference to the AK handler and a reference to handle shooting, which we do not have, and I think it was the attack behavior that did that, so let's keep that for now. Okay, so in the third person shooter we had the handle shooting over here, but since this is for the AI, we know we do the basically a few stuff we're going to pass on the attack behavior. We're going to pass it instead of the handle shooting, we're going to pass to the attack behavior, and let's actually pick the definition. And it's pretty much the muzzle fire and the audio source. Okay, it's not that we take too much of stuff from there, and we're basically enough. We have enough for this, so now we can come and start writing the functions. So void start, the AK handler. Now the difference we're going to see over here is I'm going to add the AK handler, I'm going to add the weapon manager on a different game object, and that game object is going to be as a child game object. So I'm going to search for the AK handler on the parent game object. For the attack behavior I'm going to do the same. Set the same. Now the problem with this is that the player of course will not have an attack behavior, so what we can do over here is do a check if we actually going to find an attack behavior in the parent, then you can assign it. We're going to add on the available weapons the first weapon we have on our list, or if not the first, well, what we're going to add on the weapon index, which we're going to leave it at 0, so it's going to be the first entry we add on our weapons. Now we're going to need a few functions, which I'm going to copy paste, and the first function we're going to need is called close all weapons. So it goes into the weapons list and it assigns the muzzle particles Okay, since pretty much we're only going to use this into start, so we can assign the muzzle particles instead of creating a new for loop, so that we do not go and assign all our particles one by one the same way we do it before. Okay, so just a for loop finds all particle systems and adds them as the muzzle for the current weapon, and it closes the weapon model, and it also closes the AK holder. So with that we can go and say close all weapons in start, and then we can go and call, and basically we need to first create it, our new function, which is going to be called switch weapon with the desired index. Now, if the desired index is greater than the available weapons.count -1, of course, then desired index is going to be 0, and the weapon index is going to be also 0. If we already have a weapon model, we need to close the previous weapon model and the previous AK holder. Then we create a new weapon reference from the available weapons we have. We go into the AK handler and pass all the references we need to pass. Okay, and the look target, if we have a look target, then we assign an override to the AK target, and we can come over here and say if the new weapon, now we do not have handle shooting anymore, so we can say attack behavior over here, but we also do not have a model animator there. So what we can do is basically either go and create it, on this definition, and let's just add it over here, public animator model ani. But before we start applying references to the attack behavior, we need to actually do a check if we have an attack behavior assigned. So everything that has to do with the attack behavior, I'm going to add it inside this if state, and I'm going to start changing the stuff. And of course we do not have most of this, and we also do not have an audio manager, but we have an audio source to the attack behavior. I'm going to comment this out since they are not really any use to us now. Muzzle fire will be the new weapon muzzle. It's only one. We're going to create the particle system. We're going to make it into an array since we have a lot of muzzle fire, not just one, and we basically probably need to over here, instead of emitting 1 inside attack behavior, this is okay, we can come and say muzzle fire length and it starts emitting and for some reason it needed a capital L, so let's close the pic. case spawn, we're not going to do anything with this, and let's just comment this out since the AI probably has infinite ammo, or we can do some more stuff later with the morale and all that. And we're going to comment out the weapon animator since I'm not going to. I've made a video on how to make the animations for the weapon. It's basically the third person shooter, the weapon manager, so you can go watch that video too. So let's just keep this commented out for right now, since the AI does not even look for any of these variables. So moving on, new weapon, left elbow target, and we basically need to check, and we haven't added this into our weapon reference. And we should also add, we also had this on our weapon manager. Let's just keep it. And everything else is pretty much the same. Okay, we basically pass around our references. Now I'm going to take all this and I'm going to go underneath it and copy paste it, and I'm going to say switch weapon with target weapon, and instead of passing the index, I can pass the weapon ID, or even better, pass the weapon reference as we did before, target weapon. So this is not needed, and this should also, instead of taking the weapon from the list, we can take it directly since we can pass it over here. And the only thing we need to remove is this one, but let's just comment it out. And that's pretty much it for setting up the weapon manager. We also need to pass this to switch the weapon with the weapon index, and we basically have all the references we're going to need into our start. Now we should also add return a few functions to actually return a weapon. So if I want to pass an ID, I can return the actual weapon reference. Okay. And also, if I pass we can have a function that returns the current weapon, so let's just add it. Okay, it's simply going to return the current weapon. Now we pretty much set up almost everything we're going to need, but let's go and initialize a weapon basically. So we're going to go into a scene, we're going to go into our prefab over here, and not the player, we want the enemy. Okay, let's bring him down here and let's just start adding stuff. I'm going to close this and I'm going to create an empty game object, which I'm going to call weapon manager. and I'm going to add the weapon manager script over here. Beneath it I'm going to add the weapon holder, and the weapon holder is what we're going to be moving around. Okay, this is going to have the position of the right shoulder. So underneath it we can come and say, let's just call this IK or AK, and let's just start right hand IK position. Let's copy paste that, and right hand IK rotation, and we should also make a look target too. I'm going to take the look target and put it a bit further up forward, because it will, if I keep it in the same position, it's going to make it so that it tries to look to his shoulder, and it's going to keep rotating and rotating, and it's not going to be pretty. I'm going to add an AK handler over here into my enemy unit. Okay, and I'm going to only assign the weapon holder, or we can just simply take that from the weapon manager basically, and let's just do that. So on our weapon manager we can come and say weapon transform weapon holder, and on start we have the reference to the AK handler. We can come and say weapon holder it's almost always going to be the first child of underneath the weapon manager, so we can just use the get child, and we can go and say AK handler weapon holder will be weapon holder. Let's go back into Unity. So we can start creating our new weapons. Now I do not touch anything on the available weapons. I'm going to call this AK, and I'm going to start assigning references. I'm going to lock my screen over here, and I'm going to pass the weapon model. I'm not passing the model animator. I'm going to pass the IK holder, the right hand target, the right hand IK rotation, and I'm going to create a game object for my left hand target, and I'm going to also pass the look target. I'm going to rename the left hand IK. Okay, and we can also add references for the right elbow target and the left elbow target, but I think it's not needed right now. Okay, since the animation kinda looks okay. So moving on, and I think we are pretty much ready to test this out. So to test it, I'm going to put my player. Of course, all the AK references need setting up. Okay, we're not done yet. I'm going to just drop the player over here, and I'm going to hit play. Of course we get an error right from the start, and let's see why. Because we haven't assigned a shooting sound to our weapon manager. So we're going to go into our weapon stats, and I'm just going to use the one sound I have. Let's just add something over here, doesn't matter. Let's hit play once again, and we still get an error because we do not have an Yeah, let's see it again. Because the attack behavior does not yet have an audio source, so let's go and assign it manually right now. And attack behavior, because the switch happens on start, the attack behavior has not yet been initialized. Okay, so this will fix it probably, and right now it works as it should. Now he's aiming, and we haven't yet, I think that we haven't enabled the AK pass yet. Okay, it starts showing the AK and what we need to fix. So for starters, let's just fix what we can fix right now, which is, well, okay, let's just fix all the stuff now. And I think if we close the enemy AI, we can just have him so that he sits like that and aims. So I'm going to go and place the right hand AK target, and I'm going to place it, well, something that looks like this, where he's supposed to look, something like that. Copy the component and paste it. I can also hit apply, but I do not want to do that for the prefab directly. Okay, moving on. Let's close directly the enemy AI, and on our character stats, let's hit aim. So if I'm right, it's going to give errors, so let's not do that. Let's keep using that. Let's now close it since it has initialized, and now he can aim. Let's fix the right hand AK target, the rotation. He should be looking towards where he's supposed to aim. Or something. Let's just keep the rotation the same as the above. Well, something like that. I think we're going to fix it when we fix all the rest of the stuff. Okay, copy component, paste component values. Let's hit play once again. Let's actually make him wait for him to aim. Let's close the enemy AI, and he's aiming. Let's fix the left hand. And since we can see basically the errors we need to fix, which is the right hand needs to be a bit back. Okay, so let's do that. Something like this looks a bit correct. Let's bring the right hand AK position back. Now keep in mind that the weapon holder will be placed elsewhere, so I'm going to copy this component, paste that back over here. Let's see what needs to be changed. The left hand now has a problem. this is basically a bug from Unity that makes you see that the target is over here but the left hand is over here, and we're going to see how to fix that, or how I think we're going to fix that. But let's continue fixing all the rest stuff we're going to need. The look target moves the head around, something like this. Correct. And let's just bring a bit the right side, something like this. Okay, and we'll fix the left hand component and paste it. Now, I'm not entirely sure this is going to work for the left hand, or that it's going to fix it, but I think it has to do something with different scale or something like that, or I don't even know, or maybe it's because we have the ragdoll beneath it, although it's not that. So I'm going to go into my models, and I'm going to replace my character, bring it over here, set position. Now I'm not going to mess with the materials right now. I'm going to start adding the basically I'm going to pass around the references. I don't want this. Oops, maybe I should keep this and disable it. It's basically because I made the animation, I made the rig, and I have a few more bones that it actually needs. Now do not confuse this. This have nothing to do with AK Unity has. These are just AK bones I used from Blender. Okay, and probably your model will not even have this, so do not get confused there. I'm just going to pass the rifle on the other model, and I'm going to delete this one. But the problem now is that I also need to create the ragdoll, so let's wait a bit. So basically I couldn't fix the model, so I just swapped it with a different, I was using an FBX and I just swapped it with a dot blend directly from Blender. Now you probably won't have the same problem with the character, but let's see it right now. I also didn't even bother with creating the ragdoll once again. Okay, so we see that the hand now is where it should be. So I'm only need to fix that and place it here. How I want it to look. Okay, copy and paste it back. Now this is almost ready, but let's see it on maximize too. We see that the character is looking towards us. Okay, but if I move away, you see that the character still looks the same way. Basically keeps looking at the previous position. So we need to go into our scripts and on the attack behavior or I think we can also do it on the enemy AI. So we'll see all the references that use the last known position and where we assign it, okay, which is inside the chase behavior. And I think this is the only place where we actually assign that, or we can do it on the site's raycast. But basically, yeah, let's do it over here. So the only thing we need to do is come over here inside the enemy AI, site raycast, and say the character stats dot look position will be the target position. Okay, and this will be at the feet of the target position. So what we can also do is add a bit of offset so it looks a bit up, or later on we can see how we can actually place it to aim at his torso or his head or something like that. So right now when he starts shooting, he should be rotating to look towards us, and I can see that the left hand is also a problem. It's going to keep giving me problems. And yeah, so forget the left hand. Okay, well, basically this is the problem with only with this model, so there's no point to try and debug it now. So this basically rotates the character around as we did before. Okay, but now it's a bit rough to always rotate like that, so we're going to make him, and let me try something, because I think it might be the animations that, and they're not the animations. Then try to think if I have forgotten something. Let me think for a moment. So, as I was saying, we're going to I tried some stuff and fixed the hand, but only when aiming. I never forget that. We're going to make him rotate to the target, but if the angle is greater than a threshold we're going to assign, then we're going to rotate the body. So to do that, we need to go and find where we, on AI behaviors, the attack behaviors, or at least I think it's over here. Decide attack behavior by stats, more pass, first pass, attack behavior. We have on our main AI, we have reference to say look at target, position to look. We're going to create a new function which we're going to call public void look at target IK. So we're going to take this, and this will also have this. And we're going to keep looking the angle and say if angle is greater than, let's say, 60, then rotate, and not rotate, let's make boolean rotate to face target, goes through. Okay, and if rotate target to face target, then start rotating back. And we can also do if angle is lower than 1 or something like that. Okay, rotate to face target equals false, and this will probably work right out of the bat. Look at target, let's copy this and let's find all the references. We use this and we use it quite a lot, and most of it in the attack behavior. So let's just change all this, start shooting, look at target IK, look at target IK, keep looking target IK, and I think there is one more, and yeah. Or maybe you do not want to use IK, but I think you probably going to want to use the IK, and we find all of them. So back into Unity, let's hit play, let's maximize it too. Okay, we're going to keep moving. You see that there is, I'll probably fix that. There is a slight movement before he's actually okay. So let's make it even better, even greater, the angle. Here let's make it greater than oops, this will be the opposite, but let's also fix the rotation. Okay, we need to fix the right hand rotation to actually look towards your target. Let's copy this, place the component down, and now it should probably be just what we need. Okay, when he starts aiming, you see that he does not rotate his body, his lower body, he only rotates his upper body. And if it's greater than the threshold, then it removes it like that. And I think it's pretty great. Now there is a problem because I haven't with my model, so that's why sometimes the hand is going to look a bit weird or stuff like that. Okay, but I think it's pretty great. It turned out pretty great. And he's going to keep shooting and shooting like all this. Now, if you have an animation that makes him rotate, over there is the clamping, because we also have a check rotation between the target to be 90 and closes the arcade. Okay, it now looks that the arcade is not, he cannot aim there, so he disables the arcade. But if I move a little bit further, then it's going to rotate. It's basically because we have two checks that go off almost at the same time. So if you do this at 85, then it's going to fix itself. Now the other thing that you can do over here is, if you have an animation that he rotates towards its position. Now I do not have one, so I cannot show you. So basically, if he's stationary and rotates, you can actually add the animation over here to do it. Okay, so it will play the animation, and then you can close it by when you close the rotate to face target. So as long as he's rotating, he's going to be playing the animation that he rotates. Now I think we've covered everything we needed to cover in this video. We basically created a reference to our weapon manager, okay, and our AK handling and all that stuff. And on a later video we're going to keep doing stuff, since it's now a humanoid character. We can do a lot more stuff, and can actually create the animations, so it's easy to swap around characters and animations. And with everything I add on the weapon manager of the third person shooter series, you can also come over here and add it into this project too. Okay, and this way you can have a pretty robust system to use with pretty much everything you're going to need. Now we're going to see some more behaviors in the future for this series. Okay, this series is long forever, is long, not done yet. Okay, I have a lot of stuff to add. So thanks for watching. You know what to do. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to keep to help me keep doing these videos, then you can also support me on Patreon, or you can grab a project or two from Gumroad. And I'll see you next time.